Thierry, what I would like to know is, I mean, IP in and IP out is a major trend in the IPTV encoder business. How do you see things shaping out in the future with this IP in, IP out?
Well, you have to understand that operators are used to IP network architecture, and when the IPTV wave hit them in the past, they had to deal with all kind of fancy format like RF, like SDI, ASI, which was a little difficult for them in terms of especially operation. So what we also understand is that if we want to build a cost-effective solution, especially for long-tail type of content, you're probably going to go into 500 channel plus on the head end in 2009, 2010. So operators are not going to build super duper head end with matrix, SDI matrix will cost them a lot of money without counting this has to be redundant, so each time they need to duplicate the equipment. And therefore we strongly felt that we needed to bring IP in, IP out in our equipment. The problem is we've been looking at different type of technology to do the transcoding from MPEG-2, which is the majority of the source, to MPEG-4. And we came to the conclusion that the best way to do that is to do a very good, very strong MPEG-2 decoding in one part of the processing and keep our existing MPEG-4 technology, which is so far one of the best available on the market if you look at the track record we have with our MPEG-4 technology. And therefore we created one box, IP in, IP out, 4-channel in a box, which is today the most integrated and the densest solution for transcoding from MPEG-2 to MPEG-4. We can also do MPEG-4 to MPEG-4 for HD content, which is created by content provider to HD MPEG-4 CBR that will go through the IPTV network. So it's also a rate shaping MPEG-4 solution with a very good quality as opposed to what you might find on the market, which is, I would say, a low-end implementation. So in terms of end-to-end solution, you see also that this enables a lot of network architecture, such as what we call co-hop. One head end is there going to distribute the content across different regional head end, which is of course the case for the local operators in the US. The IOC are starting to work in that way, and we also believe for content which is aggregated from, let's say, a foreign country brought to the US, it might not be a real-time process. You send the IP file, you store that on the streaming server, and then you can play it out, and then IP MPEG-2 to IP MPEG-4 will be real-time transcoded with our products. So we believe that this is going to have a major impact in terms of scalability, cost of ownership, new business model, and hopefully we'll be able to sell more encoders as we'll convince more and more people that this is the best way to manage the video across their network.
Okay, a couple of things that you touched upon that interest me. One is the MPEG-2 to MPEG-4 transcoding. If you look at the encoder business and similar businesses in other telecom segments, you're selling encoders because you're converting certain format into IP with IPTV. With IP in, IP out, I mean, that sort of business seems to be in danger. But obviously you did mention video transcoding. But the question is, with IP in, IP out, are we not going to see the encoder going to go away in maybe 10 years, 15 years time?
Well, it's also what's happening is that you have now more and more content aggregation being done directly at the source. Like, for example, today in Germany, HD is produced directly at the source by the content provider. But this is what we call mezzanine source, which means very high quality HD at, let's say, 10 to 12 megabits per second. And our business is to bring this down to 4 to 5 megabits per second in 3 years from now. And therefore, we'll have to do a tremendous job at re-encoding already encoded MPEG-4 content. And of course, this is, I think, the game of operators. They want to have high quality input to decide by themselves what is the trade-off quality versus bitrate they are going to put on the network. Do not forget that for a standard IPTV operation, you need to have 2 HD streams for watch and record coming to one PVR set-top box. and the second HD stream coming to the second TV set HD in the home, which means 3 streams coming to each home. If you look at average IPTV deployment at 15 megabits per second on the ADSL2+ link, this is going to be a hell of a challenge.
Okay. Another interesting bit that you mentioned earlier on was content that could possibly be streamed from more diverse sort of locations. With this IP in, IP out, you know, I can imagine somebody like a traditional content aggregator sitting in the middle with more possibilities for perhaps, you know, could have content coming from a remote country being streamed over to some IPTV service provider in North America, and be able to do that much more easily with this, again, with this IP in, IP out. Am I thinking on the right sort of lines?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. One thing we see today happening is that those content aggregators try to stream over the public internet these IP files into the set-top box that they are selling to end user, and this is an example with a New Lion service with a Chinese content. We believe long term they will only sell the content, IP content, to existing deployed operators like AT&T, Verizon, and they will license the content which will run on the set-top box, but the content will always be encoded in that case by the service provider because he wants to control the bitrate and the quality of experience on his network.
Okay, and just to conclude, if you were to perhaps list maybe let's say the top 4 trends that you've seen in IPTV over the last year or so, what would they be? You know, 4 punchlines.
Well, I say migration to MPEG-4 is clear for everybody on SD, and especially on HD. This is a must, and we see a lot of even operator migrating from MPEG-2 to MPEG-4 for standard definition. VOD and high definition are a must. All the operators now realize that without those 2 bullets is going to be difficult to differentiate, and I believe the next generation of services will be around advertisement, targeted advertisement, and as you know, Harmonic is working very hard on that, and we have been awarded as the best advertisement solution at IPTV World Forum in London, and will bring, I think, very integrated solution for ad ingest, ad insertion, and ad streaming, so that everyone can eventually get an ad which is relevant to him and not skip the ad as people do today with the PVR. This will be another adventure on IPTV.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing those thoughts with us, Thierry.
Thank you very much for having me.